Hey everybody, we're back again today with our continuing series of classic album song rankings. Today we're doing a personal favorite of Sam and myself. We're all holding it up. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers' third album, 1979's Damn The Torpedoes. Our special guest today is Josh, Flipside Vinyl Community with JC. Everybody knows him, great channel. Over 3,000 subs. If you haven't subbed him yet, please go over and do so. One of the most informative channels in the VC, period. No doubt about it. New releases, he gives you all the info. Vinyl finds, of course. He's got a huge collection. Just a professional channel is what I call it, because it's very organized. He's gregarious, he's engaging, provides great content. And I know Sam and I have been really looking forward to having Josh on our channel. So thank you very much, Josh, for agreeing to do this with us. We really appreciate it.
Well, I love both of your channels. They're both absolutely fantastic. And I was honored. And I told Rich before we made the video that I've been like stalking, waiting to get my chance. I didn't want to come on too strong though, so I just waited it out. I figured eventually I would get asked.
No doubt.
But I'm always open for this, and I'm super excited. And this is my second favorite artist of all time. So
great. Yeah, I think
it's like vinyl community dating. We're just waiting for the person to make
he vacillates between 1 and 2 with Springsteen as my favorite artist. So they're right there, neck and neck, no question. I know he's high on Sam's list too.
He's my favorite American, he's rock band. He's my favorite American rock band.
So we got 3 guys here that absolutely love Tom Petty, and were devastated when he passed away. 4 or 5 years ago, just horrendous. Anyway, back to the album, Damn the Torpedoes. 7 weeks at number 2 in the United States. Only Pink Floyd's The Wall prevented this album from being the number 1 ranked album at that time. So just a monumental album. It was definitely a turning point in the Heartbreakers, Tom Petty's career. The first 2 albums were fine, but this really set him into the big time, as far as I'm concerned. Rock and roll needed that injection at that time, because the late 70s were, infused with punk and new wave, and even disco was still hanging around. And here comes Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, man, and influenced by the Beatles and the Byrds, and just a brilliant ensemble act. They're all great. You can't take any of those guys out of the band and still be incredible like they are. So there's no weak link, is what I'm trying to say. Tom Petty is the front man, and he's the most known of the guys, but they're all essential players, in my opinion. This album had 4 hit singles on it. What can I say? Tom Petty, in my book, has always been the coolest guy in rock and roll. He just looks cool on stage. He's cool. He has a presence on stage when you see him. I mean, everything about him, even his little mannerisms, the little screams he has at the end of vocals. So I just want to get your guys' opinion on when you first fell in love with Petty's music and how it evolved. So let's go with Josh. What do you have to say for that, Josh?
All right, so this was actually one of my first vinyl records that I ever owned. In 1984, my father got me a record player because I was obsessed with music, and my collection was very small. I had Frampton Comes Alive, Kiss Alive. I had Van Halen 1984, Rat Out of the Cellar. And I had this, and my cousin had gotten me this for Christmas. And when I opened it, I had no idea who it was. I'll be completely honest with you. I was like, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and I looked at the picture, and it didn't look very metal. You know what I mean? So I was like, I don't know, but I instantly love with it. But I don't think I fully appreciated the weight of this album. I think I had to grow up, and I was only 10. So probably about 10 years later, when I was 20, and I experienced heartbreak and heartache and pain and loss, and loss with death, like grandparents dying, and loss in terms of girlfriends breaking up with you or relationships ending. I really felt the gravity of some of Tom Petty's work. He sings these anthems, these songs that inspire. A lot of times they're angry songs, but they're songs that certainly gave me a lot of strength. Like a song like Refugee. And so I really, at that point, I had followed Tom Petty throughout the years. My dad was a huge Beatles fan, so the idea that Ringo was playing on Full Moon Fever and the Wilburys, so my house was always filled with Tom Petty music. It felt like home, but that really catapulted me. And by the time Wildflowers came out, I was obsessed. And as the years grew on and I grew older, more of his music made sense to me. The lyrics made sense. I could resonate with it. And that's the great thing about Tom Petty and Springsteen to me. The music, as I evolved as a human, the music was evolving in my head. A song that I heard 100 times before had weight to it and made me love it even more. And there'll be sometimes where I might point out certain lines to a song, and that's what really makes me love this song. Sometimes just one killer line that Tom Petty does can make all the difference. But yeah, I'm obsessed. I'll always be obsessed to the day I die. He is one of the American greats. There's no doubt about it.
Cool. How about you, Sam?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I guess from a different standpoint, I mean, I always knew Tom Petty just based on, classic rock radio was always playing, Running Down a Dream, Free Fallin', maybe American Girl, from, not as much as the other two songs, but so I knew like the hits. And then my dad was really big into Napster when Napster was huge. And so like the thing that he would do was he would make essentially mixtapes for people on Napster and give them as gifts. And he made me a CD with about 4 Heartbreakers songs. It had some ELO and it had some Dylan, and then I think a couple of Roy Orbison. He essentially made like a Wilburys solo album for me. And so I had, I think Here Comes My Girl might have been on there from this album. I think Refugee, and then like The Waiting. My dad was big into like the late 70s, early 80s Petty. So that's where I started listening to, quote, the deeper cuts that weren't on classic rock radio. And then, I got into the Wilburys. The Wilburys album changed my life. I've talked about that on some of my videos where it branched me out into the careers of all the guys involved in the Wilburys project, including Petty, obviously. And, the first true Tom Petty album I bought was Full Moon Fever, because I'd been given a greatest hits by this point of the Heartbreakers, so I knew all the greatest hits. Full Moon Fever was kind of the next step because about half of those songs are greatest hits anyway. And then it just kind of went out from there. I was buying all the solo albums. And I remember specifically like the first new Petty album that I bought, like when it came out, was the first Mudcrutch album, and back in 2008, I think. And loved that album, loved that sound. And then from that point, I was grabbing every Tom Petty album, whenever it came out. Hypnotic Eye, his last album with the Heartbreakers, that was a big college album for me. And then, just going back and picking up everything along the way. Like y'all said, I mean, he's just the absolute coolest. I think he's number one, and then Campbell is number 2 for the 2 coolest guys that have ever walked the earth. And it's funny, we kind of joked that back in high school, my mom kind of had a resemblance to Tom Petty, and we always kind of joke. We've done like photo edits putting her face on Tom Petty, and he's just in our family. My mom's a huge Tom Petty fan. I would say, she's helped me with it. My dad's helped me with it, but then also just building that collection up. And I could go on and on. I could do series on Tom Petty, so I won't do that today. But anyway.
Very good. I like both your explanations there, but mine goes back. I'm a little older, so mine goes back to the beginning, the first album. The first song I ever heard was Breakdown on the radio when it was released as a single. And the opening line, "It's all right if you love me, it's all right if you don't. I'm not afraid of you running away. I get the feeling you won't." I was hooked from that point on, man. That was it. And the delivery of the vocals too, just the coolness, the casualness. And then when he has to emphasize a line, he'll do that. Just, what can I say? You either buy into it or you don't. And I was hooked from day one. So
yeah.
Anyway, what we're going to do is rank these songs. That's why we're here. We're going to do the song ranking. There's 9 songs on the album. We're going to go 9 down to 1. When the rotation will be Josh, Sam, and myself. So let's kick it off. These were hard to do because, in any great album, all 9 songs are really solid or excellent. So what do you have for us, Josh, at number 9?
Okay, so for me, I love every single song on this album. So even though this is number 9, it's great. And I can tell you the top 4 have rotated as my number 1 constantly. But You Tell Me is going to be my number 9, which I love. And this is the perfect type of song that's Tom Petty will play live. You know, that mid-tempo rocker where, you know, there's space to breathe live, which I love, even though it sounds amazing recorded. But when you hear it, you can imagine what it would be like sitting outside, you know, one of these amphitheaters, smelling the summer air and listening to this song. But what I love most about this song is he has this lyric. It says, "You tell me what you want me to be when you're finished with me." And obviously during this time, there's a lot of strife, a lot of anger towards the record company. And he has another little line in there where he says, "I could take a little pain." And that's the thing about Tom Petty, man. He doesn't back down. He's telling you, like, I can take it. You know, it's like that song, "I Don't Scare Easy." He doesn't. He does not scare easy. And I love that about his lyrics. I love that he has this strength behind it. And so number 9, You Tell Me.
Great. How about you, Sam?
I'm gonna keep on going with Josh there. It's my number 9 as well. Yeah, I mean, again, to backpedal for a second, I love this whole album. I mean, to me, I probably should have said this at the beginning. To me, Tom Petty is the only artist that doesn't have a bad song. I mean, I can find bad songs from Dylan, who's my favorite artist. I can find bad songs from John Prine. I can find, you know, the Beatles have some bad songs. I mean, look, to be honest, you know, Petty does not have a bad song, and so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I mean, it's like Josh said, it was that kind of that bluesy mid-tempo intro with the piano, Benmont Tench on the piano.
Yeah.
And the Heartbreakers, there's this great line that they say, because all their songs are, you know, fairly short in the pop range, at least in this time. They had this band motto where they said, "Don't bore us, get to the chorus," which is, you know, at the time you had guys like the Grateful Dead were really making a name for themselves. You know, jam band Zeppelin was playing, you know, 12-minute tracks, 20-minute tracks. Pink Floyd, they were just like, I just want to get straight to it. But they told so much information in that 2.5, 3-minute mark. And then another line that I want to point out, he says, "You put me through your paces and your twists until I felt like dying."
Yeah.
I mean, he knows what's going on. And I think what helped Petty too in his career is that he wasn't incredibly young when he started the Heartbreakers. I mean, he was already in his late 20s by the time the Heartbreakers came around. So he had already lived some life. Yeah. He wasn't a teenager, you know, he wasn't doing bubblegum stuff. He was right in there. But yeah, I mean, this is the one that I knew it was going to be number 9, but listening to it again, I'm like, man, I don't know if it should be number 9, but anyway.
Yeah, I have it a notch higher. My number 9, believe it or not, is Century City. This is you know, a straight ahead kind of rocker. It's a little bit formulaic though. It has the great playing and the heavy drums and the pounding piano in it. And then it has the guitar solo, actually Petty's scream leading in the guitar solo, which he does in a lot of songs. But this one doesn't have the lyrical content that I'm looking for with many of the other songs. So that's why I put it at number 9. I wouldn't say it's filler. It still rocks. It still moves. I like it. But you have to rank something at the bottom. And for me, it's this song. I just want to point out one lyric here that I queued up. And that is, "Baby mama can't do nothing. Mama just ain't here. And you can pretend all you want to, but that don't work no more. You can't run back to daddy. Yeah, you tried that once before." So this is a guy just laying it out there. You know, I'm telling you, you know, you don't have them to fall back on. You tried that trick with me before, it didn't work. And you can blame me for everything, but whatever. You know, and that's a lot of these songs are about relationships, failed relationships, or moments when things are about to go south. And that's one of the strengths of Petty's songwriting, is everybody can relate to those kind of things, I think. So Century City, number 9. Sorry.
I was gonna say I agree completely, and I think that a lot of the relationships you were talking about was him and the record labels, but he spun it in a way
Yes.
that we could relate. That he was singing about a girl, and
Right.
Century City is my number 8. I
Okay.
agree with you that lyrically, not as strong as some of the others, but that's like saying, you
Right.
know, saying the worst written Tom Petty song is better than 90% of everybody else's songs. And you know, I love the line where he says, "Don't worry about the thunder, don't worry about the rain." It's like, yeah, we know we should be worried, right? Like he's kind of telling you in this song, like, yeah, there's like he knows the record company first tried to say, well, we only want you as a solo artist, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
then they said to him, well, they sent him to a contract, but didn't give him his publishing rights. And he was finally like, no, you know, and there's a famous story where he says, you know, he's in front of the judge and the judge is like, he's telling him, I need to tour because I need money. I'm starving. And the judge is like, how are you going to guarantee me you're going to use that money on food? And he goes, there's no guarantee in rock and roll. And Tom Petty was defiant. Tom Petty would have been poor if it meant sticking it to the record company. And Century City, I think, is about that, you know, in California. And it's kind of like this beautiful place, but at the same time, he knows that there's the thunder, there's the storm. And it's like, oh, don't worry about that. But no, he's smart enough to see it. And but that's my number 8. I do agree with you that it's not as dark as it probably could be, but it's a rocker.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Number 8 for me is the song "What Are You Doing in My Life." One of my favorite lines in that on the album really is from the song where he says, he says, "I don't know how you got my telephone number, probably some jerk trying to put me under." And then he says, "Some friend of a friend of a friend of mine." I love when he just the way that he phrases that whole friend of a friend of a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's so good. It's one of the coolest lines, and his voice is super high during the chorus. I mean, he's really up there in his upper register. And the chorus is simple. He just keeps saying, "What are you doing in my life?" And then he finally says, "I didn't ask for you." Kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
get out of here. You showed up to me. I didn't need that. So not much more to say about it. It's really because of that line, it's number 8 and not number 9 for me. But I mean, it's a great song. It's pretty fast paced, and I've always really enjoyed it. So
Yeah. My number 8 is the one you guys had at number 9. You tell me. It's got this hypnotic groove though with the piano and stuff. It's sort of, I don't know. There's no real melody to it, so to speak, that is a hook, but it's the way they're playing. It's basically instrumental. I think I was watching the making of this album, and Ben Montench said the interaction is in the bass, the rhythm guitar, and the drums and the vocal, and everything else is an answer to that. The piano and the organ. He doesn't play the whole way through. He's sort of jabbing at it and making a little statement musically. I didn't realize they brought in Duck Dunn to play some of the bass lines too on this. That I found on the making of the album, which was a classic album thing that VH1 had years ago. I saw it on the YouTube, and interesting that they would bring in a bass player, a renowned one like Duck Dunn, of Booker T and the MG's fame, and replace some of the things that Ron Blair was doing. But evidently that's what happened. Maybe because he was in town, maybe because he was a name, but
well, I know that Jimmy Iovine, the producer, I know he was really adamant to try to get Stan Lynch out of the studio during these sessions as well, because he didn't think he was a good enough studio guy, that he was more stage presence. So, but Petty kind of fought for him.
Yeah. Again,
Yeah,
what you guys,
Jimmy,
go ahead.
okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you go first. It's your channel.
I was just going to say, you guys talked about some of the lyrics, and the one that Josh pointed out is the exact one I have written down here. But that's all right. I can take a little pain. That's exactly what I was going to hit on, but you already did. So I want to emphasize that that's a key line in the song for me. You know.
And I was just going to say, Jimmy Iovine is such a perfectionist that, you know, he wasn't probably happy with anyone other than Petty and Campbell.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
You know, he's just all right. So some people are going to be mad at my number 7, because for some people that I've met, this is one of their favorite Tom Petty songs, and I love it, love it, love it. But I'm going to go with Louisiana Rain. And I do love this song. There is a little bit of overkill because I worked with someone that played this song on a daily basis. You know what I mean? He loved this song. So it was probably a part of me that's just heard it too many times. But there is one of my all-time favorite Tom Petty lines in this song. And he says, South Carolina put out its arms for me until everything went black somewhere on Lonely Street.
Yeah.
So fantastic line, fantastic song. I know it's probably lower because of Overkill, but I do recognize that it's a classic Petty song and it's certainly a fan favorite.
Yeah.
And that's it for me.
Well, I was thinking that you were going to go kind of the direction I was going for number 7, because I kind of have a similar preface of this song.
Yeah.
A lot of people think, I mean, this is one of his big hits, and it's the song "Here Comes My Girl" is my number 7.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's again, there was a time where I listened to on Sirius XM, Tom Petty Radio, channel 31, killer station. I mean, Petty was all into getting that founded. He had his Buried Treasure show. Benmont Tench has a show. Steve Ferroni has a show, and now Mike Campbell has a show. But they play, all Petty music and then his influences and that sort of thing. And this is one of those songs they played a lot on there, but this was never one that really hit me the way that others did, because it was even on his greatest hits. And so even on that greatest hits compilation that came out, I think in '94, around the time that Wildflowers came out, this was never one that went with me. Maybe it's because it's a lot of spoken word. He kind of was inspired by like 60s girl groups that had like that spoken word, like a Leader of the Pack and stuff like that. And I love that whole vibe of it, because it's a great video too, because you can just see him. Especially, he said you got to reach out and grab hold of something. He grabs Ron Blair and kind of shakes him. And you can tell, they didn't know what he was going to do. But one of my favorite, one of my all-time favorite Petty moments is from the song, though, where between the chorus and Campbell's about to kind of just do some little fills, where he just goes, "Watch her walk." That right there makes it 10 times cooler. It's just so cool. And it's not one that he really did a lot later on in his life live. Maybe it was difficult to get timing down with the spoken word part of it, but I know in that documentary that Rich was talking about, he's kind of doing it on acoustic guitar, I think, and kind of talking about how he got to the lyrical content. But that one line of "Watch Her Walk," I think, is one of the coolest Petty moments of all time. So, but it's number 7 for me.
It is, and that's one of the reasons it's very high on my list.
Yeah, it's very high on my list.
Extremely high on my list. I like
that's with Louisiana Rain. So
everything you just laid out, I love that song because of it.
Oh yeah,
I think maybe because I was gonna say maybe because Petty and the Heartbreakers are such masters at the hook and like that jangle and everything. This song, I guess, lacks that to an extent with that spoken word part of it. But again, I'll love it. I mean, there's a reason it was a greatest hit. So
yeah, I just want to add one thing to what Sam was saying. This cover here, this is the guitar that was played on that song. It's a 12-string Rickenbacker. Okay. Mike Campbell says he bought it for $150 back in those days, because they only had 2 guitars in the band. They were, scraping to make ends meet. Found that for $150. Love the sound of it, and the rest is history. So very cool. My number 7 is the one Sam had earlier. "What Are You Doing in My Life?" A rocker. Fast-paced lyrics. It's performed with a little attitude, I think. A lot of pounding on the drums by on the piano rather, by Benmont Tench. It's maybe it should be even lower. Now that I'm listening to the album in full, I made this list the other day, and I think you tell me I like a little better, even though I flip-flopped them. But I don't know. It's kind of a standard kind of Petty song. It could have been on that first album. It sounds a lot like what they were doing on their debut album to me.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns up here. Again, nothing elaborate with the lyrics, nothing that really sticks in my brain that says this is an A+ song. But I think the bottom 3 songs here for me are the ones that are like a B-. And from here on out, the top 6 songs I think are excellent. That's just my take on it. All right, we're number 6, Josh.
Is exactly what you said. What am I doing with my life? Now, it probably ranks higher than Louisiana Rain just because I've heard it less. I totally agree with you. It is a song that would have been on their first album.
Yep.
I do love it. Like that opening line, you follow me around New York City.
Yeah.
It's just like this, like this rock and roll standard. It's got a cadence to it that is that classic cadence. It just sounds like a fun song. You know what I mean? It's angry again, but it's just, and all the lyrics that you pointed out, John, before are fantastic. This is the type of song now that he's passed that I really enjoy, because it's like, here's Tom Petty just being Tom Petty, and making a rocking song that's full of angst. And so, I have it at number 6, and I think it's a great place for it.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Sam.
Number 6 is one that talked about earlier. Century City is my number 6. Fast-paced song. I love the way that Campbell's guitar sounds on it. That boom, bow, bow. It's so unique. Nothing really sounds like it, and just tons of lyrics in such a short amount of time. I mean, there's a lot of lyrics in the song. Plus, Petty's got that scream where he's like, why worry about your father? Why worry about your mother? Century City's got everything covered. And he's like, covered. Like he dragged up that Dylan-esque drawl in his Gainesville, Florida voice. I love it. I mean, it's a great song, and it's one that, when I first got the album, because that's another thing I didn't mention, is that Damn the Torpedoes was one of the last studio albums that I bought, simply because 3/4 of these songs were on the greatest hits, and I was like, why would I put my money to buy like 2 or 3 extra songs? But I wanted it as a piece, and now I have a couple copies of it. But Century City is just fast paced, and again, it's one of those songs that you can imagine, like Josh was saying earlier about one of the other songs, you can imagine it live, especially that early Petty, where they were just, they were still hungry. Like you said, Rich, that they had a couple hits. They had American Girl and Breakdown. Listen to Her Heart was already out,
right?
But this was the album that they went from filling out auditoriums to filling out like the football stadiums and the hockey arenas and things like that. So it's right in the middle of the road for me. So Century City, number 6.
The one that I put at 6 is the one that was earlier 5, and I moved things around. But don't hate on me too much. This is one of their big hits. Don't Do Me Like That. I love the song, but right now it's number 6. I like the 5 ahead of it better. This was originally it goes back to 1974 in a demo from Mudcrutch. They considered giving this song to the Jay Giles band because it would fit their sound better, but Jimmy Iovine talked them out of that. They re-recorded it or laid it down differently, whatever, worked on it. It made it to number 10 on the charts. It's got that bouncy beat, hook-laden chorus, very catchy. It's a great song. I mean, you can hear it on the radio and you're singing along right away. I like some of these lyrics too, like better watch your step or you're going to get hurt yourself. Someone's going to tell you lies, cut you down to size. And then the chorus breaks in. Don't do me like that. All that stuff. So it's just fantastic. Number 6 for me as of today.
My number 5 is Don't Do Me Like That. I think it's a pop masterpiece. I really do. Like it is 100% a masterpiece. And listen, baby, can't you see? Baby, you would bury me. It's like so good. And to think that, like, Tom Petty says this thing about how I forget what the name of the song is, that Full Moon Fever, the Zoo song.
Yeah.
Zombie Zoo.
Zombie Zoo. He's Tom Petty, that's his least favorite song. And he goes, I can't believe I made the album because I've thrown away songs that are 100 times better than this. And to think that his songs that he thinks is garbage, or songs like, end up being songs that like we're like, this is so good. But yeah, it's a pop masterpiece. And the way that it's constructed, I've heard the Mudcrutch version, which is still great, but the way Jimmy Iovine had them construct this, there's no doubt that it would be a hit. I mean, you hear that song, it's infectious.
Yeah.
So, yep. All right.
Number 5 for me is going to be Shadow of a Doubt, Complex Kid. I think this is the first time this is the first time that it's shown up on our list here. Again, one of those songs, because it's on that the quote deeper cut part of the album that not Tom Petty fans know, but it's one of those great songs. His humor is all over this song. That whole part about when she's dreaming, sometimes she speaks in French, but in the morning she don't remember it. Like he's obviously like slurring his words. So you don't always understand what he's saying. I didn't know what he was saying at all the first dozen times that I heard it. I was like, what is he saying right there? Because he's like, she don't remember it. Like he's like, he does like this like villain, joking around. You can hear him smiling, and I'm sure the band was having a good time playing it. But then the chorus is just, it's like, well, there's not really a lot of humor there, because he's like, she's got me thinking about it. Yeah, she's got me on the fence with a little bit of mystery. She's a complex kid, and she's always been so hard to live without. It just like, you get that humor, and then you get a chorus like that where you're like, I can understand the humor, but then like you get this chorus where it's just like, it's a serious topic, and just about some girl leaving him. And I'm sure he had a lot of that, as being a rock star that he was. But just that whole part about speaking in French, when I learned that's what he was saying, I was like, oh, that's so good. That's so good. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's funny. Yeah. So it's number 5 for me. So right there in the middle.
Yeah, that's the song that moved up 2 notches for me, by the way.
Wow.
That was originally 6. It went to 4, and I'll get to that next. But my number 5 is Louisiana Rain, the one that Josh had earlier. Another one that a deeper cut that not a lot of people, unless you're a Petty fan, realize how great this is. It's a wonderful song. The closing song on the album. I think it's the longest song on the album too, time wise. Yep. It's like a slice of like Southern life to me. They always say that a great artist or a great writer paints pictures and tells stories with imagery and feelings, and that's what this song does. It's got a great slide guitar in it, and harmonica comes in towards the end here. And I like this particular line: Louisiana rain is falling like tears, running down my face, washing out the years. Louisiana rain is soaking through my shoes. I may never be the same when I reach Baton Rouge. And anybody can throw that kind of line in, with the geography and stuff like that, and still make it work is cool. So Louisiana Rain, it's a beautiful song. It really is. I think it's fantastic. But it's number 5 for me, because I have these monster hits above it have to be recognized for what they are for me.
All right. Well, my number 4 is Shadow of a Doubt, Complex Kid. And at one point, this was my favorite Tom Petty song. So Tom Petty did a bridge school concert for Neil Young, and he did this song acoustic, but he did it at the same speed that's on this album. But I really heard the lyrics and resonated with me, because I think what he's singing about personally is, I don't know if about you guys, but I've dated women like this, which they hold back. They sometimes won't tell you their complete feelings, because this is their way of keeping you. Like, that little bit of mystery. Like, does this girl really love me? Does she not love me? Is she going to leave me at any moment? And that's what he says, and he could tell that he's like, she's got me asking questions. She's got me on the fence with that little bit of mystery. She's a complex kid. And I've been there. I've been dating people where I'm like, man, this girl's got me hooked, but I think she's got me hooked because she's only giving me an inch. Right. You know what I mean? And I think that's what he's saying. And it's so brilliant to relationships are complex, women are complex. We're a different species, it seems like sometimes. And this symbolizes 90% of my relationships I've had in my life. So yeah, Complex Kid. It's so fantastic, and it's so well written. It could easily be my number 1. These all could be my number 1, these top 4. But, that's number 4.
Great rundown there. What do you have, Sam? 4.
Well, this is probably when I'm going to hurt a lot of feelings.
Oh,
because this is the one I think that at least one of you, if not both of you, has as number 1, and it's Refugee, number 4.
A dagger. Good.
Yeah. Huge hit. This was one of those first Petty hits that I heard. I mean, it's obviously one of his most well-known songs. He played it live all the way up to the end. That great guitar opener, that boom, 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 and then again a great a great video where he's walking down the stairs, goes down to that basement, and all the Heartbreakers are down there playing, waiting for him. You can tell how young he looks and that, but again, a little bit of that kind of like spoken word, kind of dark sound to it. That whole somewhere, somehow, somebody must have kicked you around some. I love it. And then like the next verse, he says, "Tell me why you were laying there reveling in your abandoned." Like, it's just so good. That whole, build up to, don't have to live like a refugee. And then the Heartbreakers coming in the background, because it's got every aspect of a great pop song, a great rock song. Benmont Tench is kind of one of the unsung heroes. He's got that organ feel, that bow kind of going on with it. And I think he said that this was one of his favorites to play live, because it's just got those little subtle pieces in it with the organ. But
Yeah.
Probably the reason it's number 4 is because it's everywhere. But again, it's not one that I get tired of. I mean, there are songs that are overplayed that I get tired of. I don't get tired of Refugee. If I'll just, again, my regret in life is not seeing Tom Petty live. I never got to see him. He was top of my bucket list, but I can imagine seeing this live and just, losing every aspect of my cool. So, but it's number 4. I like the other 3 a little bit better.
I was lucky enough to see him 6 times live through the years, and every single time I went, he played Refugee. So that's how strong that song is. That's a staple at the concert. Usually an encore song, most times.
Yeah.
My number 4 is Shadow of a Doubt, A Complex Kid. This is the one, when I first made my original list, was number 6. And I've been spinning the album a few times this week, and I couldn't help but move it up 2 notches. I think it's the most underrated song on the album. Should have been a monster hit. I like his delivery on these vocals too. Sort of punkish in a way. He emphasizes certain words that really bring home the essence of the song. And I think Josh hit on a key thing there about communication and commitment and that kind of thing. Mysterious, you're not really sure where you stand. You think you're there, but there's that little bit of doubt, that little bit of mystery. And he flat out says it. She likes to keep me guessing. She's got me on the fence with a little bit of mystery. She's a complex kid. She's always been so hard to figure out. Yeah, she always likes to leave me with a shadow of a doubt. And the way he says doubt, with a doubt, and then and it gets into that guitar, and then they just jam from there. It's absolutely perfectly arranged. Iovine has to get a lot of credit for this album, in my opinion. And Mike Campbell, of course, is the secret sauce with the guitar playing. And like I said in the beginning, all these guys do their part. That's why they're a great band. And with Tom Petty leading the charge. But fantastic song. And I can see what Josh said. It could be easily number 1, because it could be. It's just as good as some of these other songs. It's just, it hasn't been around in my brain as long as some of the 3 that I have above it. And that's why it's number 4.
Yeah, I can't believe it's not my number 1. Like I said, at one point it was my favorite song.
I can see.
I love that line where she don't like working.
Yeah.
She said she hates her boss. It's so good, man.
That's what I mean by
I
the
could spend an hour
delivery.
talking about that.
Those words that the way he emphasizes and pounds them, and he's got that little punky moan sort of that goes with it, and it's cool.
But that's part of that influence that he had with McGuinn and Dylan with that phrasing. He just takes it and makes it a little bit more modern at the time. But,
right.
It's such a genius. Oh my God, I could spend an hour talking about that song alone. My number 3 is Refugee. I think that Tom Petty is a badass. He really is. This guy does not, he stands up. He's got these anthems like I Won't Back Down and Refugee.
Right.
Like, cause he ain't living like a refugee. And when I'm feeling down or I'm feeling like, I need some oomph, you put on a song like Refugee and you just get pumped. I know it's overplayed, but there's a reason why it's overplayed. It's a masterpiece. It's his Born to Run. Does Born to Run rank in my top 10 Springsteen songs? maybe not because I've overheard it, but I'm not stupid enough to realize that this is the greatest song, you know, one of the greatest songs of all time. So yeah, Refugee, one of the greatest songs of all time. I had to put it at number 3, even though, like you said, Sam, it's difficult because Shadow of a Doubt resonates with me more at this moment in my life. But there you go. Great song. All of these are great.
They are great.
Yep.
Well, before I go into number 3, Rich brought up something earlier about the guitar that's there. And for people that don't know, you know, they, like Rich said, this was the guitar. It was Mike Campbell's guitar. He let Petty hold it for the picture. But Campbell bought this, like you said, kind of secondhand. And the people that they were influenced by playing the Rickenbacker were Roger McGuinn and George Harrison. And so they wanted this big, you know, Rickenbacker guitar. And then he goes, picks it up from this guy. It's a much smaller guitar than the ones that they were, you know, picturing, like McGuinn's. Well, come to find out, I mean, obviously this thing is still in Campbell's arsenal, but come to find out, this very guitar was the second off of the assembly line. Well, it was the next serial number after George Harrison's on the assembly line. So
wow.
So George Harrison's is one number lower than this one. So and he bought it for what'd you say, $150?
That's what he said, yeah.
Can you imagine what that thing's worth? Yeah. And then of course, you know, they thought it was cool. So Petty bought a matching one. And they kind of took that all the way to the end. Campbell and Petty had matching guitars, and now Mike Campbell does that with the Dirty Knobs. He likes that match that on either side bookending the stage. But anyway, just a little tidbit there. Number 3 for me is Don't Do Me Like That. I know y'all mentioned it earlier. Again, you can hear that Jay Giles sound to it. I mean, you can just that organ with Ben Mott playing on the upper part of the keyboard. That bow now no bow now no now no. It's just so good. The lyrical flow of how he's fitting all those lyrics in. You know, I was talking with a friend of mine, said a woman had hurt his pride, that whole thing. And then I love the chorus when he says, "Listen, honey, can you see, baby, you would bury me. You were in the public eye, giving someone else a try." Well, I guess the pre-chorus, because he brings that back a second time at the end of the song. Just one of those great songs. I love the bridge in this song. You know, somewhere deep down inside, someone was saying, "Love doesn't last that long." It's just, it's great. I mean, it's, you know, like you were saying, it's a masterpiece of a song. The musicianship all the way around is fantastic. Ben Mott is killing it. Stan on the drums, because it kind of fades away, and then you can hear Stan kind of go, it comes back into it. So they're all playing their part. They're all doing what they need to do to get through the, you know, 2.5 minutes that became this, you know, huge hit. But it's a great song. Great song.
Very cool. My number 3 is one we haven't mentioned yet, so you guys are going to have it even higher than me, and that's Even the Losers. What a song this is. Oh my God, just great storytelling. This is basically about scoring with someone who you think is out of your league a little bit, and reflecting on maybe one night that you were able to have a moment. You know, you have that little self-confidence when you're young. Oh, she's too good for me, or whatever. And you're reflecting back. We smoked cigarettes and stared at the moon. I showed you stars you never could see. You can read into that line. It couldn't have been easy. It couldn't have been that easy to forget about me, saying, like, you know, I remember you, you should remember me. It's great storytelling. It's very detailed with those lines, like the smoking cigarettes and staring at the moon, maybe at a party and they drifted off to be alone. Petty's phrasing is always on point here. That's what makes him unique and makes him special. The line, even the losers get lucky sometime, that line alone is worth the price of admission. And then it's just, what's the word I'm looking for here? Harmonic distortion. I heard somebody say that in the interview, that that's what the sound is on guitar. It's just harmonic distortion. It has a harmony to it, but it's a little distorted to make it their own sound. And I like the screaming at the end that Petty does, like nobody else. even the losers get lucky sometimes. And he goes, ow, 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 and he just fades out.
Yeah.
It's
Love it.
like punching. It's like, ow, ow, ow. You know, it's like, it's personal, you know? And
Yeah.
that's why he's Tom Petty and we're not.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, obviously that ranks high on my list. My number 2 is going to be Here Comes My Girl. And I think for me, the reason why this is so high is when you have a partner, you know, the way I feel, you know, you have a partner in life. Every once in a while, life throws a curveball at one of you or both of you. And when the strength of two obviously is huge, it's probably why as humans we gravitate to being in relationships, right? Because we want someone when things get tough that we have a shoulder to cry on or someone to pick us up, or maybe we're picking that person up. And I think that that's what that song does to me. Like it makes me feel so good. Or even when I'm not in love or I've been single in my life, it's been times where I've said, that's what I want. That's what I want in a relationship. And you know, that I love the talking part, man. That's what makes Tom Petty so cool. It's just like he's saying sometimes this whole world, it gets so hopeless. And I'm like, yeah, man. Like we're at a bar and I'm like drinking with him and he's like, you know, and he's just ramming on and he's like, but then he looks me in the eye, says, we don't last forever, man. You know, I can't begin to doubt it. And I'm like, hell yeah, we're gonna last forever. Shit, this is, you know what I mean? This is why I find myself in a committed relationship. It's all because of Tom Petty. You know what I mean? Like, and yeah, man, this is like everything I love about Tom Petty. He makes me feel all the emotions. He resonates with me so much. I can't even fathom it. It's why I love Springsteen too.
Yeah.
You know, everything about this song, everything about these these top 4 songs, I absolutely love. They would rank high on any list, even if I did 100 songs of all time. So yeah, my number 2 is Here Comes My Girl.
Great.
Well, number 2 for me is one that y'all killed me with by knocking it out early, and that's Louisiana Rain.
Well, that's a great one. It's great.
To me,
it's a great one.
To me, it was the sign of things to come for Petty's more introspective lyrics. I mean, from this point, you had, you know, you had big songs like Insider came out on the next album on Hard Promises. You had, obviously, with Southern accents, you had Rebels, and then the song Southern Accent. And then, of course, the big build up to Wallflowers with all of those introspective lyrics. So this was kind of his first real, like, saga of a song. Like you said earlier, it was the longest song on the album. It's one of the perfect album closers, in my opinion. Very, very much could have been done by like a group like The Band, which of course I know he used on, you know, what's the song, The Best of Everything from Southern Accents. He used Richard Manuel and Robbie Robertson on that song. So it's again, those influences are there. He's really developed into a songwriter. Again, one of the reasons this album is where it is in his catalog amongst the fans, not necessarily our personal choice, but I mean, he's one of the best lines in it for me is he says, well, he was eating pills like candy and chasing them with tea. I love, like, that's just such a vivid image. You can just see the guy with, like, you know, these white pills all over his desk, and he's just, you know, popping them in as he's, you know, having tea, watching, you know, like crappy news or something on the TV, and he's just kind of going to his own world. And one of the weird things about it is kind of like that weird segue-ish intro to it. It's like 20 seconds of like he's like beeping synthesizer things, but then it breaks into like this full-on country song with the Campbell style guitar, and it's just a masterpiece of a song. It's so vivid. It's almost like a movie, which is again one of the things that makes Petty so great. Songs like this, songs like Southern Accents, that there are many movies. I mean, and this was the first of many that he had, you know, to show the world. So it made it to number 2.
It's a good choice because it really is a great song, and just because it's number 5 on my list doesn't mean I don't like it. I do love it, but
I love it too. And Southern Accents is my favorite Tom Petty song at the moment. I know that'll probably change, but that is my number 1 favorite song by Tom Petty. So.
Mine too.
Sam and I did a top 20 Petty last year, and that came out number 1 for him.
Yep, still there.
And I like that song Down South from one of his later albums. That's a beautiful
From
song.
Highway Companion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Really cool.
Absolutely.
Talks about,
you know what's his? Oh, go ahead. You go first.
now he talks about Samuel Clemens and all that kind of stuff. He paints that picture of being down south, going home to pay respect to somebody that maybe passed away or whatever. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say another hidden gem by Tom Petty is Fault Lines.
Oh yeah,
that one I think is one that's way underrated. So that's another one I would check out if any Tom Petty novices are watching this.
I think Tom Petty may have more hidden gems than anybody when you come right down.
Exactly. Yeah.
As many hits as he has that many hidden gems too.
Yeah.
He really does.
That's another video, just top 20, deep cuts.
Non-hits or deep cuts. Yeah, we could do that easy. My number 2 is one you guys had. Well, Josh just did it. Here Comes My Girl. Definitely number 2 for me. I love the narration. Everything that Sam and Josh already talked about is the reason it's number 2. He's half talking. He's leading you down into this catchy chorus. Eventually, the cool guitar licks by Campbell as well are essential here. And it sounds, to me, it sounds like a live recording with the spoken intro. I mean, it sounds like they're just in the studio and he's talking his way, and it came out beautifully. It doesn't sound like it was pieced together at all. It just sounds like natural and flowing, inspired by the Byrds in a way, and the Shangri-Las, which they did spoken word on Leader of the Pack in the 60s and other songs that they did. I can hear that in this song. And to me, it's somewhat about a guy being rejected by a girl, but as soon as he sees her walk in the room, he's smitten, he perks up, he takes notice, and he says, "Here comes my girl.
Yeah,
she's all I need tonight. Watch her walk." That "watch her walk" thing is beautifully delivered, and it leads into the guitar playing. Watch her walk, and it's a must-have in that song, and they are geniuses to put that in there, because where would that song be without the "Watch Her Walk"? I don't know. It wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the same, but it would still be amazing.
It would still be
amazing.
Amazing.
when he sings, "When she puts her arms around me,
right,
I can somehow rise above it." It's like so good, man. I mean, I don't know. I could talk about that song for an hour.
Yeah. Classic. Absolute classic.
Another classic. Oh my God, this album is so awesome.
I think we're gonna have 3 different number 1s or not. I lost track. Maybe not.
No, I think we've got a match here.
I think Josh and Sam are a match.
Yeah.
Okay. Lead us in, Josh. What do you got?
My number 1 is Even the Losers. I mean, you think Tom Petty could feel like a loser, right? But it just shows no matter how cool you are, no matter how confident you are, there's all points where we feel outclassed or we feel like we're a loser. And you're absolutely right. Everything you said about it, Rich, is so perfect. Where he paints that picture, we smoke cigarettes, we stared at the moon. It takes me back. I hear it and I think about, the summers, like you said, being at a party. My friend used to have a cabin down by the lake, and you'd go and you'd meet new people, and you'd be out there by the lake and you're talking to a girl. You don't know if you're ever going to talk to her again, and it just paints that picture. Even the losers get lucky sometime. It's one of Tom Petty's greatest songs, and I love it. So yeah, my number 1.
Great choice. Sam, you have it also, right?
Yeah, it's the whole thing of, he has the one night stand with the girl. I think from what I saw, it was a girl that he had a crush on when he was in junior high.
Right.
And she kind of, I guess I don't know if she lowered her standards, so to speak, and she's like, "All right, this is what I've got right now." And so they hang out, and she kind of said, "This is the end of the line is tonight." And it was just one of those things where Petty kind of felt like a rock star at the time. And just one of those great jangle pop kind of songs that he did so many of. That whole, show you stars you never could see, couldn't have been that easy to forget about me. And from what I understand too, that neither of y'all mentioned, was when he was in the studio, like running down the a lot of artists, they don't have the lyrics complete when they're at the microphone. They're just trying to get like a vocal, like a guide vocal, so to speak. And the first thing that came out of his, because he didn't have the chorus yet, and so he just says, even the losers get lucky sometimes. That was just something that came out of him naturally at the mic. And then they're like, "Well, that's brilliant. We should just keep that the way it is." And I mean, obviously, you know, the song speaks for itself. I mean, that's the whole song right there. And then you have like that kind of that funny intro at the beginning where you hear Mike Campbell's wife say it's just the normal noises in here on the album version, not the single version.
Right.
Which goes back to like the demo. There was a washing machine in the back, and Mike was asking what it was, and just one of those perfect songs. It's possibly in my top 10 favorite Tom Petty songs. I don't know if it was last year at this time, but you know, if I was doing another 100 Tom Petty songs, this one would probably get pretty close to the top 10, if not the top 10. So it's brilliant. And it's also kind of cool that Josh and I matched song 9 and song 1. So that was it.
Very cool.
But anyway,
my number 1 is Refugee. I couldn't go against it. It's always been in my top 3 Petty songs of all time. So on this album, it's my favorite song. I heard they worked really hard to perfect the sound of this, like 100 times, recording it, getting it right. I like how Petty sings with such conviction and attitude. It's raw in a way, defiant, you know. Killer guitar and organ here, that they stand out instrumentally to me with and the drums. You can't overlook the drums. They're solid. I like Stan Lynch as a drummer. We talked, maybe it was off camera right at the beginning, but I think he's the best drummer the Heartbreakers have had. I don't want to disrespect Steve Ferroni at all, but Stan Lynch, the original member of the band, fantastic. And the lyrics themselves, you know, somewhere, somehow, somebody must have kicked you around some. Tell me why you want to lay there and revel when you're abandoned. It don't make no difference to me. You believe what you want to believe, and then it jumps into that chorus. You don't have to live like a refugee. Just a brilliant song. One of my favorite songs, period, not just Tom Petty songs. This would be in my top 50 songs of all time. Easy. And top 3 Petty songs for sure. So that's why it's number 1.
Awesome.
And very cool. And I just want to add this one thing to Petty and Campbell. They were doing that the making of video, and Mike Campbell said something really interesting. He said they choose different guitars, like a painter would pick different colors. You know, if they want purple, they'll add a Les Paul, or green, a Gretsch, or red, a Telecaster, and they piece this together like a mosaic, like a painting. And that's what an artist does. And they transferred that idea or concept into music. I'm sure a lot of musicians feel this way, but the way he articulated it really resonated with me, as these guys are perfectionists, masters of their craft. And that's why they were who they were for 40 years together as a band. Just fantastic artists.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, if you're ranking great American bands of all time, they have to be in the conversation. No question about it. You know, there's so many great British bands, like obviously the big ones, the Stones, the Who's, the Beatles, Zeppelin, but these guys are at the top of the list for American bands.
Yeah.
And there's
my favorite.
No denying that. Anyway, what we like to do at the end here is rank the album on the old 1 to 10 scale. We've been doing this since we started the series. 10 being a masterpiece, 1 being horrendous, and 5 being mediocre, middle of the road. So, Josh, what do you have for us? Number 1. 10. Right out of the chute. Bang. 10.
Easy.
Sam.
No doubt.
This is always the big moment of the video.
I know.
What's my big ranking? I'm gonna go with a solid 9 for this album, simply because of I guess because of You Tell Me being where it is. It kind of brings it not quite to that 10 level for me, but again, I've already stated in all the videos my reasoning for not ranking things 10s unless they're in my like top 5 favorite albums.
Yeah,
and this one is not. Yeah.
I seem to be stuck on the same number every time. I'm going 9.5. I'm going right in the middle. To me, 10s are hard to reach, but I can't rank this a 9 because it's Tom Petty and it's my favorite album of his with the Heartbreakers. I mean, I like some of his solo stuff as well.
Yeah, Wildflowers is my favorite album.
Okay.
I will tell you that my favorite song is Southern Accent, and probably very shockingly, one of my thinks the best songs he ever wrote was Crystal River. And I would probably rank that in my top 5 Petty songs, even though it's a Mud Crutch song.
Mud Crutch, yeah.
I think
That is a
yeah,
great song. I like it. Yeah.
that is a high ranking. But yeah, guys, this was awesome.
This was.
I want to thank
Yeah.
Josh again for coming on and doing this. This really made our day. It made our series. Go over and check his channel out. Flipside Vinyl Community with JC. Really appreciate it. Sam, as usual, great to have you here. Sam and I just went over 400 subs. So you can like, subscribe, leave comments. We appreciate any positivity, and leave your favorite Tom Petty songs. There's only 9 of them. We'd like you to rank them too and see where they stack up with our list. So if you want to do that, we'll be sure and get back to you in the comments. So for Josh and Sam, this is Rich. We will see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye.